I think it's very, very important that you sort of build great amount of trust, right? And have pretty much like blind faith, right? And that can happen if you sort of build a very, very personal bond. So you can't launch a 90% okay product and say that I will iterate it and I'll sort of make it better over a period of time. And with every stage, I think you have to figure out your product market fit. You go from 1 crore to 10 crore, you have to unlock. If you see our journey, we start off with 10,000 rupee price point luggage, then we went down to 7,000, now we have a 5,000 rupee luggage.
First of all, thank you everyone who joined. And I think it's awesome to actually kickstart this series with you guys, because obviously there's a very special angle of working with these two Moko boys for a long time at Urban Ladder. And it's fantastic to see their journey, not just as a customer, but from the sidelines as now an investor. And, it's sort of a quintessential how to build a brand. So I think it's a great one for anyone who's planning to build anything in D2C. I think a lot of the stuff that I'm sure Sangeet and Navin will share will apply to you, whichever category you're looking at. And so let's get started. And I think, Ravisha already covered your background, guys, but, I'm going to sort of divide this into three parts, approximately 10 minutes each. And as the questions come, for all those who post questions, I will try and pick them up during the area that we are covering. But otherwise, anyway, the last 20 minutes, I'll just exclusively focus on the Q&A. I think the three parts. One, just your background story in terms of how did you sort of get to working together. Sangeet, I know you were talking to so many different people. What was that whole thing that made you? What are the things that you learned at Urban Ladder in your past experiences that have helped you here today? Same for Naveen. And what is it that made you pick each other? So that's the first part. I'll come to the second and third parts. Let's just spend maybe the first 10 minutes and I'll interject wherever required. But please go ahead and tell the story.
Sounds good. No, first of all, I think thank you for giving us this opportunity. We're super, super excited. I think we'll potentially be able to go back and learn a lot from most of the folks here as well, right? So I'll start with a little bit of a background. Basically, I started off my journey with Mahindra and Mahindra. First couple of years, I spent like a couple of years working in Mahindra and Mahindra. I was part of the product strategy team, right? That's where I sort of learned the fundamentals of product design and product building, right? And then I happened to sort of come across Urban Ladder, joined Urban Ladder in 2014. And Urban Ladder was the place where I sort of found my love for building product building brands, right? That's where I got to meet Navin, I got to meet Rajiv, I got to meet Ashgo, and that's where actually my career sort of started, right? First year at Urban Ladder was all about sort of building the sourcing channel for them. Then second year was spearheading the product strategy. Then third year was all about spearheading the retail piece, right? And after that, I went to Flipkart because I thought I wanted to do something in different categories, but pretty much 6 months into the system, realized not necessarily the place for me, right? And that break from Flipkart is what led to sort of us building Mokobara, right? So just to sort of summarize the career trajectory, right? Urban Ladder was the place where I figured out what I want to be doing in life. And Flipkart was the place where I figured out what is it that I don't want to be doing in life, right? And I think that's a very, very important lesson as we sort of explore and sort of try and sort of build companies or do whatever you want to do, right? Important to know what you love as well as important to know what doesn't work for you, right? Because that just allows you to close like multiple chapters in your head and you can just sort of go back to the drawing board and focus on what you sort of essentially love, right? And so yeah, like I was fairly passionate about building product, building brands, and I was making a small trip to Singapore. I happened to be in the market for a new piece of luggage, and that's where essentially the journey of Moko started, right? Because I went to the market, couldn't relate to most of the products, most of the brands. What we figured during my shopping experience was that there were brands at the lower end of the market which invariably would break after 1 year or 2 years of usage, or you had high-end brands which would actually cost more than a flight ticket for the trip that you're going on, right? So just this deep passion for building products based on my previous experience led me to start tinkering with the idea. And as I sort of got deeper and deeper into sort of building the product, I was sort of leading and doing it by myself. And I figured out that brand is going to be an integral part of it, right? Because one was obviously the product inside, which was that the products which were there in the market, we felt it was way too shitty and we could create magic in those products. But the bigger insight or something that we sort of stand for today is essentially the brand, right? because most of the brands which are there in the market, most of the people couldn't relate to any of the brands. We are a generation who have transitioned from wearing Bata shoes to Reebok to now wearing Onitsuka Tiger. And if you're wearing a Onitsuka Tiger or a Nike, you cannot be seen traveling with a safari luggage or for that matter, VIP luggage or a Samsonite, right? It's too boring, right? So that's where this whole idea of that the brand has to be the center part of what we sort of set out to build. And yeah, I mean, went through multiple set of folks, trying to interact with them, trying to understand who I can sort of build this along with, and just sort of went back to the old set of folks, and that's where I sort of dialed up Navin, and that's where we sort of came together, right? Because I sort of lead the product part of it, Navin sort of leads the entire brand piece of it, and we sort of have like a very, very complementary skill set, right? That allows us to sort of focus on what the business needs are. So yeah, that's how exactly the journey started.
The part two is basically as to the category choice and a variety of things around sourcing and supply chain and COVID, of course. And part three is around the brand itself and really about virality and how do you build the brand. But Naveen, I think would love for you to talk through some of your, things that from Urban Ladder, of course, as well as outside experiences and what sort of excited you on to this mission and Sangeet in particular.
Yeah, so Rajiv, we've spent countless hours, just figuring out the brand piece at Urban Ladder. And what we realized at that point of time, even Facebook advertising wasn't there. It was the very, very early days in trying to sell something digitally, that to like expensive item, bulky products, right? So figuring out all those things was very, very interesting. And that is where I realized that the power of storytelling and the power of digital communication. This is just insane. The world was just opening up to these platforms where you could do commerce there, right? So that was like a big chance for all of us to to learn how to build relationship without meeting anyone, without a physical presence, just through visual communication, storytelling, and all those things, right? So that was a really exciting part at Urban Ladder, and that is where I realized that is something that I enjoy doing a lot, and wanted to take that further. Another ambition that I always had was, can we build something from India that goes global someday? And we've always heard of all the brands that we like and we use. 99% of them are from not from India, right? So can we build the next Nike? So something in that zone, right? And digital actually helped us believe that we can at least the barrier to entry is not there, and if you have real stuff and if you have real communication ideas, then you can talk to a global audience, right? So that was the starting point. So we realized that this is something that we want to do. I was also continuously thinking about what are the spaces I can get into, and that's when I met Sangeet. And when I met him for the first time, he was roaming around with a prototype of a very, very ordinary looking luggage. And he said that, I'm building something very interesting in the suitcase space. And I was like, listen here, I'm too young to do this boring thing. And I'm not going to invest the next 10 years of my life selling suitcases. So this is not happening. But then we started jamming more about it. And then we realized that this is about travel. And travel is something that excites me and Sangeet both. That is something that we love to do. I spend like crazy amounts of money that I earn in salaries just into travel, right? So I realize that this is something India is spending on, and this is a great space. And if we can build a brand on the ethos of travel, and luggage happens to be our entry point, then this is a lovely problem to be solved, right? So that was the starting point. And then the best part was just building the first product together. We made countless trips to our factories and to all our friends and families with the prototypes and all those things, and we were not getting success. Uh, we wanted to launch with the product that we will buy. That was the brief on the table, and just getting something, especially in design, getting something that a lot of people like is very, very difficult. So that was our challenge. So we ended up realizing that we'll need some experts to come and help us figure out the language for our design. We can take that language forward and create amazing products, but that language has to be super solid. So we started working with an agency called Morama, in UK-based agency in London, and with them we cracked this whole universal design language sort of thing, which works as a platform for all Mokobara designs. Where the idea was that it won't be too much, it won't be too little, just be perfect. We will never decorate for the sake of design. We will always be bold but simple. So those were the principles we cracked with them, and once those were in place, the whole journey of design and then showcasing that design to the world became super easy and very organic. And that's how we got to our first prototype, and in 2019, and we were roaming around with that prototype everywhere, trying to woo all the investors. But it took us a lot of time to really find someone who will trust in the idea, because again, at that point of time, the only thing that we were hearing is that this category has no repeat purchases. It's too expensive. The price point that we are entering into, it's almost impossible to sell this kind of price point online. And at that point of time, we only had one cabin suitcase to sell. We started our company with just one cabin size luggage, not even the medium and the large and the sets, because that's all we could create in that much time, right? So we were getting a lot of no's, and it was almost feeling like it's not gonna take off because nobody's trusting the idea. But as we kept going on, we luckily got to meet Manu from Sauce, and that is where he found that India is ready for premium brand, and if you guys can create amazing designs, there will be takers, and we will get people like us to buy first, and then we'll see where it goes. So that's how we started
Sure.
in 1st January 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to come to the COVID part of the story, but what were those initial discussions? Obviously, the both of you know each other from Urban Ladder, work together. But as founders, and Sangeet, I know you had just about started up and you were talking to a variety of people at that time. I'm sure, that was a big decision for both of you and for Navin, for you also, right? You've done probably a studio before, but uh, to sort of become founders and go this venture route, spend the next 10 years, what are those conversations like? Because a lot of people on the call are also people who are trying to figure out as to who is the right co-founder, as well as what is the right co-founding combination even for building a D2C brand. And what was the thoughts? And I know, Sangeet, you talked to a variety of people, not just brand folks. So
Yeah. No, so I think it was just first of all, I think first and the foremost thing, like when we were just sort of kickstarting the journey, right? It was sort of madness in our own heads, right? It was some sort of a junoon that no matter what, right? We didn't know much about the market size, right? We didn't know how big it will become, right? We were just supremely passionate about this whole idea that a category feels very exciting and we can create like extreme amount of magic in this category, right? So if you would have looked at too much data, if you would have spoken to too many folks, I don't think so the idea would have turned out the way it has turned out, right? So it was just madness in our head which sort of led us to sort of start building Mokobara. And that is another piece of advice that I can probably share with the larger set of audiences, that a lot of people sort of they leave their job and then say, yeah, I'm fed up with my boss, now I want to start something on my own, right? I don't think so that's necessarily always the right way to start, right? I think ideas at any point of time can come to you and you just need to feel it, right? Once you feel it, you just go all in, right? Then you're not worried about how big the market is, what is going to happen, what is not going to happen, how you're going to sort of make your ends meet, right? All those questions just take a back seat, right? So I think when the idea comes to you and you sort of completely feel it, then it just happens, right? So that's one part of it, right? In terms of combination bit of it, right? I mean, yes, I was speaking to funnily enough, like me and Navin never spoke to each other back at Double Ladder, right? Probably in the 3 years that we spent, we would have spoken like 3 or 4 times over a smoke break. And we would always never see like eye to eye, right? To be very honest. It's like I thought like he's some different personality and he always thought that I'm some random guy, right? So that from there, me then connecting with bunch of UL folks itself, right? I mean, bunch of the other folks who I've worked sort of closely with, right? And I always thought that these are the set of folks that I'm going to start building something, whatever I do. And as I was just sort of going through that process, realized that the set of folks that I'd worked with, they had a very, very similar sort of a skill set that I had, right? And if you try and sort of if you want to try and complete the art, you want someone who comes with a very, very complementary skill set, right? So I think that became very clear that, okay, we definitely need someone from a brand and creative background, right? So that was one bit of it, right? And honestly, when I sort of met Navin for the first time, like it was just, we were surprised to feel and know that हम लोग पहले एक दूसरे से कभी बात क्यों नहीं किए, right? Because we have very similar family backgrounds, right? So it was almost an instant vibe match, right? Where we felt that whatever I'm saying that he's able to complete, whatever he's saying I'm able to complete, right? And the questions, like I mean, any sort of question mark that we would have in terms of can I trust him, can he trust me, right? They just sort of started fading away, and we were very brutally honest, right? Because of the past experiences that we had seen, right? The news that we would read about different co-founders not sort of being able to gel together, and we would openly talk about it, right? And actually, the real bonding for us happened like 6 months after starting Moko, right? I mean, when we launched actually. Naveen just randomly called me and he's like, let's just go to Goa, right? One-way ticket. We'll see when do we have to come back. This was after we were just going through COVID and all of that, and nothing was happening. And we must have drank like 5-6 bottles of wine, and that is where like we actually bonded. So I would strongly recommend folks that before you sort of commit, I mean we had already committed, but at least this is sort of a learning and hindsight. Spend at a very, very personal level, right? Go on a trip. I think that helps because that just sort of establishes the bond, right? Because this is almost gonna be like a marriage, right? It's you spend more hours, like I spend more hours with Naveen than I spend with my wife, right? So I think it's very, very important that you sort of build great amount of trust, right? And have pretty much like blind faith, right? And that can happen if you sort of build a very, very personal bond. So
We are certainly not openly advertising drinking 6 bottles of wine, but everything else you said, I think is absolutely fair. I want to, given we are on the 20-minute mark, I want to certainly move to parts 2 and 3. And I think, starting especially around COVID, and, that takes a lot of grit. There's a variety of questions. Why the name? Why the pricing that you chose? You already talked about the design language. I think that's fantastic to hear. Because in this, and even I would go back, Sangeet, I don't know if you had any other categories that you actually said no to come to this category. Because a lot of the founders, at least the ones that Antler sort of talks to, are at that infancy, right? And they have a variety of decisions to make. It's great that you said pick something that you truly believe in. And, because too much data, too much, Mokobara wouldn't have started, Urban Ladder wouldn't have started if you looked at data. So at the end of the day, it's just impossible to, beyond the point, look at data. And, in my new avatar, it's my job to also throw data. But I think, as founders, we all know that you really start where your gut is at some level, right? Now, the price point, the brand assets, the pricing, and the supply chain and the sourcing and what it takes to get that first product right from the prototype. Do you manufacture in China? Like a lot of those folks are in that stage. So if you can shed some more light on all of these different aspects.
Yeah, data. Yeah, so basically, the idea is simple that I'll tell in our context, right? We were very sure about building a product that we would love. So we were not operating from a point of view of okay, what should be the price. So that came much later. We're like, let's build something that we will buy, and then let's see what's the price coming at. So it's not that let's launch a luggage in the 8,000 rupee price point. We're like, let's see what will it take us to build the best luggage, right? And that we did without any sort of compromise. That we did with complete honesty. We went literally all over the supplier base to find the right wheels, the right polycarbonate, the right partners. We would have talked to around 25 manufacturers, right? All the good ones were not ready to work with us because we were just starting up. Our MOQs were something that their machine will spit just to start. So they were like absolutely not willing to work with us. So, literally just begging them, pleading them to do our first consignment. that was the hard part. But we are very sure that we will work with the best, because the kind of expertise that they will get on the table, we don't have. We are not from this back. We never had a luggage background or a manufacturing background. So we know that this is something we need to work with somebody who's been doing this for 40 years and can create for brands like Tumi and all, right. So that was our base requirement. So I think a totally uncompromised process over there, and we landed on a product that we really liked, and then we started working. Okay, fine. What should we sell it at? Where we make some money out of it. So that was our starting point.
Right. No, I think it just the question around how did we sort of come to the category also, right? The only other category that we had explored or I had explored was starting a sandwich shop, right? Because I was traveling and I'd sort of come across like a lot of great sandwiches across the world. And I was like, okay, in India, we don't find a good sandwich, right? I mean, apart from the Bombay toast, right? So that was there, but then we're like, this is not fun, right? And then that event happened, which I just sort of narrated at the start, right? And after that, it was never a question mark, right? So because we just felt ki as a customer, I'm not able to find any product that I want, right? Okay, maybe in the global markets I can find it, but at least from an Indian market standpoint, I can't, right? So there is definitely a gap. There is definitely an opportunity about it, right? And I got damn excited about that, and that's when we just sort of kept pursuing it, right? And I think uh, the process in terms of how do you start, right? Once you sort of land in the category, I think there should not be any time limit as to say that, oh, I need to launch my company in the next 6 months, right? We spent almost 18 months before we actually launched, right? So the first trip to China was made in, I think, December 2018. September 2018 is when I said that, okay, I want to start building something. Wrote to close to 50 to 60 factories. December 2018, visited these 25, 30 factories, right? January, got the designer on board, right? Which was again, spoke to like 15, 20 designers all over the world, right? Again, the ambition there was that, okay, we want to be a design first brand and we're not going to get some of the best designers in India, right? Without much money, without any funding, we said, let's go out and find like the best designer, right? That's how we sort of landed, right? Because we were very clear that it has to be design first. Same thing happened on the manufacturing. Visited those manufacturers, then we zeroed down on 4 manufacturers. Then we started exchanging design ideas when we were parallelly sort of doing the design work. That led us to sort of figuring out and zero down on one manufacturer because he was able to respond to us much faster and he was able to sort of work with us and communicate with us much better compared to most of the other manufacturers, right? So that's how it started, right? May 2019 was the first trip, a second trip to China to see the prototype, the first prototype. Went there, saw the prototype, damn excited, got the prototype back to India, started showing to friends and family, and they're like, what is this, right? There's nothing cool about it, right? That's when again we said, okay, let's keep reiterating, right? And we went through 5 to 6 molds, right? I mean, and back then, I mean, for because we had not raised capital, that was sort of a fairly risky move, so as to speak, right? But we're like, we have to perfect the product, right? In I think consumer brand, another important thing to note is there's no MVP in consumer brands, is what I believe. You can't launch a 90% okay product and say that I will iterate it and I'll sort of make it better over a period of time. You have to believe that the first product that you've launched, right? Because that has to be 100% perfect. And over a period of time, you can sort of adopt consumer feedback and make that product even better. But that first product has to be a top-notch product, right? So we spent like 18 months, right? Just sort of going prototypes after prototype, mold after mold. And then we landed at the product. We got like 4 to 5 colors, and then we were traveling with it in Hong Kong, China, Shanghai. We threw it, right? We took it to the train, we took it to the flight, we took it to the ferry, and we just started enjoying that process, right? And that's when we knew that, oh, the product is there. And that's when we placed an order in like October 2019, December 2019, the first container came, 1st of January, we launched, and first 2 months were great. Third month, we're like, we're the next biggest thing, and COVID happens, right? So, yeah.
On the product testing bit, once we got the final prototype, we actually played a game at Kabanpar where the game was who can throw the suitcase the highest, right? So we were just testing at what point will it break, right? So that was like an amazing product testing that happened.
Next time you do that, call me. Why the name?
So again, like very interesting story. Scrolling through Instagram, happened to come across this bakery in Paris called Moco Nuts, right? And just the word Moco had a very, very crazy ring in my head to it. And that's when I started researching, understood the meaning of Moko. Moko is actually a face tattoo which is done by Maori tribe in New Zealand, right? And then I was just trying to stitch words together, came across this word called Bara. Bara means to carry in Swedish. So when you sort of put it together, it essentially translates to carry your personality, carry your identity. But we always keep a mystery behind it, right? Because we are not a brand who talks about carry your personality. That is what say Skybags would say, carry your style, right? So yeah, that's how the origin of Mokobara came to.
Given the number of questions is exploding, I'm going to very quickly come to that in the next 5 minutes. But before that, I think the parts about brand, getting to, let's say, influencers as a strategy, sort of graduating to maybe someone like Diljit Dosanjh or, a celebrity, to carry the brand, and pricing. And let's say, when do you discount, when do you not discount, the whole, how do you think of digital marketing, Mokobara and its ads? Uh, Give me all the different thoughts, sort of an agglomeration of questions. Because a lot of the questions and how did you do that with such, let's say, low first round raised, in terms of capital, right? Because you need to use some for inventory and, especially at a time where, again, post-COVID. So what are all those challenges? And just give us more light on how did, in your words, Mokobara become this viral digital brand that everyone wants to sort of use?
Got it. So I think the secret behind whatever we've been able to achieve in Mokobara, and anyone can use it, but it's very difficult to do, is to stay consistent. Uh, what we were saying on day one, we're still saying the same thing, telling the same stories in different formats, right? We actually never do A/B testing on anything. We just try to write a story, try to build a story, and we present it, and we wait for it to work. What we have realized is that the way the old brands like Coke and Nike and Pepsi and all of these are built, they were not built in the digital environment where you can become the DJ and sort of play with 100 messaging and try to see which one works, and waste money on all of those and nothing comes out of it, right? So in the early days, they used to do media plan of 5,000 billboards and one photo shoot that will stay for 3 years, right? That's how those brands were built. So we're very, very clear that, we will do very simple communication, and we will continue to show you that again and again and again, and with consistency we will build that brand more than anything else. So consistency not just in communication but in product design, the way we say our expectation that customers have from us, so just being consistent in the kind of service, in the tonality, in the visual appeal. So that has been our secret, which has been one of the reasons why uh, now it feels like we went viral. So that was one of the things. The other thing is, whoever we work with the creators and all, we were extremely conscious about the quality of content rather than quantity. So I would say at least 50% of the content that we have created with content creators and influencers or other people have never ever gone live because it was just not up to the mark. So that those were the places where we were very, very serious about that. Anything that we do, going back to the point that we want to build a global brand, right? So anything that I can't do the exact same thing in Europe or USA or UAE, I won't do it today here. So that have been the principle. So our communication was simple, but it was consistent. In our head, we always think like a fashion brand rather than a luggage brand or a backpack brand. So that has been sort of a baseline for us in terms of the visual appeal and everything. So those are the things from a communication standpoint that have worked. Anything you want to add?
No, I think just to add to that specifically on the influencer marketing bit of it, right? I mean, we've seen like a lot of brands, what they end up doing is they end up going for say thousands and thousands of influencers, right? And trying to see that, okay, they have 1 million followers, somebody has 500,000 followers, and then they just sort of spray and pray, right? You distribute, you tell them the script, and then they'll go out and make the content, right? We did exactly opposite of that, right? We would carefully keep like half the time we're always on Instagram, right? And in our head, we build this idea of like, uh, this particular person, if I see with Mokobara, this works great, right? And we would come across these people and we built a library of these 150 folks, right? And we would reach out to them and we would tell them that we want to create a content in a way that you do it, right? Because we like your content, right? And we would use their content to sort of then distribute it. This particular person could have probably 2,000 followers or 5,000 followers or 10,000 followers, right? Because what we have also realized is that the follower doesn't matter, right? If you have 1 million reach, that's not going to do any jack shit for anyone, right? Because most of the followers tends to be not your customers, right? So we rather get a great content from a great content creator and then distribute it ourselves, right? So that's one another part to it.
And in the beginning, obviously there was always sort of constraint in terms of how much can we spend. So we would beg, borrow a lot. We will call our friends, we'll call influencers and plead them to, do something in barter. We can't pay right now and stuff like that. That really helped. Other thing that we did crazy stupid things like we got to know Vera Moda is shooting in Dubai. We're like, okay, fine, then Vera Moda will pay for tickets and flight and everything. And the clothes will be nice. Can we put our luggage in that shot? Right. So we did a lot of those things because we wanted to get high quality production, but it was obviously very expensive. We couldn't afford at that point of time. So we had our way into this, and that's where our connection in the industry helped us. We knew a lot of people in the advertising scene, so we knew what was happening, where we could participate in that and get our clips. So while somebody's paying for the photo shoot setup, we will go click 5 pictures and come back, right? So those are the hacks we did, which really helped us in the beginning, while we had limited budgets.
Why Diljit, and when is your first TV ad? I'm just picking a question from one of the.
So Diljit, basically, so we both are fans of Diljit. From last almost 4 years, we every 6 months we will discuss about having a celebrity on board, and we will say Mokobara is not a brand which should have a celebrity. Attaching just saying that this one person can define what Mokobara is was like something was not sitting well with us. But when we started realizing what's happening around Diljit, and that too happened very organically to us. Uh, he was in a song called Naina, where our luggage were also getting placed, and he liked the vibe of the product and everything. He started using it, and when we started seeing him that he's actually using it, he's a superstar. He can afford the most expensive luggage out there, but he's using a Mokobara. We realized that there's some magic that is there, right? So, and then he started taking those luggage on his Illuminati tour across the globe, right? So that is where we felt that there's some magic happening here. We need to fuel this magic. So then we got in touch with the team to figure out if Paji is really excited about working with us. He gets like ton and ton of celebrity endorsement requests, and he rejects most of them. So we are not sure if he'll be interested in working with us, but we are very confident because he liked the product, what we understood. So we started talking to him, we started figuring out, what can we do together. We still don't know if we want to create an ad with him. That's a big confusion we still have. How will we distribute? What will we distribute? It's a big question mark. But we keep all our cards open. We are also talking to Tanmay. We are also talking to all the possible folks who we can work with in future, because we have this powerhouse Diljit, right, to help us cement our narrative, right. So over there, we just felt that the vibe is amazing. We love the human being behind the artist. Uh, we are fans, so right, and
The fashion quotient is very high. He's constantly traveling. He is a superstar from India who is sort of putting India on a global stage, right? That's pretty much what we also believe with Mokobara, right? So I think it pretty much started a very, very organic journey, right? And that is again a point to highlight that sometimes things just happen, right? And then you sort of figure it out over a period of time, right? If you would have thought about, oh, I want to sign Diljit and then we would want to make things, then it would probably not happen the way it has sort of panned out, right? To be able to sort of, I think recently Romana brand had posted on LinkedIn, right? I mean, how biggest of the biggest celebrities have given away their jackets, then gloves to Jordans, right? And now Diljit is sort of giving away Mokobara, right? So that is sort of becoming a very, very iconic movement, and he's doing it across the shows, right? So I think you will not see like an immediate impact in terms of sales today, right? But over a period of time, right, the brand recall just goes through the roof, right? So I think how do you sort of position it in a very, very seamless, organic way, right? That also leads to like a lot of magic. So
Would consistency be your trick based on Navin and Sangeet, what you guys said, right? Which is, I think the last 4 years, if there's one brand which has been, when it's omnipresent on social media in a very, very high quality way, would that sort of be the quote unquote, what's the trick behind brand Mokobara?
no, 100%.
100%, yeah.
Like that's something that wherever like internally we keep talking about it. There's so many times teams like put some videos, right? Between me and Naveen, we look at it and like, this is not the Mokobara vibe, right? And
Right.
this is not set in, like, this is not on paper that I can't tell you that we follow up a particular marketing rule, right? That's something that we understand the vibe of Mokobara because we treat ourselves as the custodian of the brand Mokobara. And if we feel that this is not brand Mokobara, it will not go, right? Maybe the engagement is high, right? But
Right.
it's not. So I think consistency is the.
I remember some of the arduous discussions we've had on every single, banner in the Urban Ladder.
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of that translates here too. I'm going to. There's one question on I see Mokobara on discounts always. Does this not impact the brand premiumness? And what's your general take on pricing the product?
Right. So our point of view is actually very, very simple. We are, although our positioning is premium, right? But we are in the mid-premium segment. And there are certain things which are in our control. Let's say, for example, the product is in our control, the store is in our control, right? But there are certain facts. For example, there's a way marketplace works. And there is a way the pricing works over there, right? So some of those things we never wanted to challenge. And in terms of discounting, what we also realized is that when there is an event and there is a sentiment of shopping in the country, and when everybody's at discount, it's sort of a celebration atmosphere at that point of time. Having discount really helps, especially for a brand like ours, which is just beginning. Getting more and more people to try us, discount is definitely one of the way which helps us achieve that. So that has something been a question mark that how much is too much, where should we stop, right? So those have been, so we've tried multiple things with that in terms of what is the same way of doing it. I don't know if we have cracked it yet or not, but definitely if there is the entire category on discount, we also like to go on discount at that point of time because that is where what really works.
I mean, that's a very, very standard thing if you look across e-commerce, right? Be it D2C, be it marketplaces, right? Discount is a very, very standard thing, right? And that's just sort of going against the norm and saying that, no, I will change this. And like, again, that's part of the learning, right? We've done that at Urban Ladder also, right? If you remember, right? And we would always sort of debate about it, right? And at Mokobara, we said that let's not challenge the norm on this. Let's just stick to what everyone seems to be doing in terms of how the pricing and discounting works. The price point allows us to make it look premium, and it is premium, right? The imagery allows us to make it look premium, right? So there are multiple ways. The product itself is high quality, right? So that leads it to premiumness, right? And over a period of time, percentage of this discount can sort of go down as we start expanding heavily on offline, right? So, but it will not happen anytime soon, right? As you start taking a larger portion of share in the offline environment, then this can potentially come down.
And if for anybody who's building a product which does not have a very strong repeat or a very frequent repeat, discount will be even more important for you. Because what's the point of a discount when the customer is buying it, it's not there, right? So if there's a product that you buy every second month, then yes, you can have your clearance sale and only do discounting at that point of time. But for our category, which is very, very infrequent purchase, discount is important most part of the events.
And we've seen it across brands, right? I mean, Puma does like what, 3,500 crores of revenue. You go to Myntra, you will see a good like 99% of the portfolio would be on discount, right? Look at Mango, again, it'll be on discount, right? So that's, I think, e-commerce is a discount like play. So there's no going away from that.
What point, two questions sort of, what point did you realize you had to do offline? I know it probably was a matter of time. And two, why did you choose to go international? If I understand right, you guys are going to UAE.
So I think offline, if it was not for COVID, we would have done our first store in the first year itself, right? I think very, very simple, right? Part of the learnings from the past and looking at the competition and the data, right? I mean, Samsonite is our closest competitor in terms of the price points that we operate and all of that, right? Samsonite in India has close to 120 stores, right? 90% of their revenue comes from the stores. They're hardly present online, and especially their 2x price point than Moko, then it becomes even more difficult for them to sell anything online, right? They having 120 doors, American Tourister having 450 doors, right? Other thing is we start looking at public markets, right? What are the players in our category? Safari, VIP, Samsonite, American Tourister. That's one side. Then you look at some of the biggest brands, right? Would we be asking this question to Crocs, to Nike, to Onitsuka Tiger that why offline? Not really, right? I mean, Nike 60 to 70% of their business comes from offline, and like the recent CEO change is primarily because he just focused on online for the last 3 years, right? So I think online, offline, both the channels are important. How offline and what part of offline depends in terms of the brand and the product and the price. If we are selling a 2000 rupee luggage, then a EBO like our independent stores will never work, right? You need to go down the GT route, right? If you are in maybe a mid-premium price point, then a combination of EBO plus modern trade could work, and a little bit of GT could work. If you are at a premium price point, GT, nobody will come like and buy your product, right? And it's not gonna help you build the brand, right? So hence EBO comes in, right? Birkenstock, if you look at it, Birkenstock is predominantly like an offline product-based company. Louis Vuittons of the world, Gucci's of the world, Chanel's of the world, right? I mean, so I think question of online, offline success stories, right? I mean, Carrot Lane, all major successes have happened like after they start going big on offline. Lenskart, major success happened after they start going offline. So I think offline needs to be a very, very integral part. And we hate the whole word called D2C. It is, we are building a consumer brand, right? Or a generational consumer brand, which is going to be there for the next 100 years. And uske liye, what are the channels? Online is a great, great starting point to get to that 100 crore mark. You can easily reach and do and potentially 500 crores also now, right? That can happen online, but offline at some point of time needs to in.
It's also like offline really bring the overall cost of doing business down. If you have a healthy split of 50% offline, 50% online, you can go really aggressive on online advertising because you know that offline is there to catch. The ball won't fall down on the floor. But let's say, for example, to give example of Samsonite, right? If they have 100 stores, right? If they go aggressive on digital advertising, nobody's going to buy a Samsonite online. So all that traffic is going to go to waste because they don't have an online presence. In our case, we have online presence and then we have a retail to catch at the bottom, right? So we can actually double down on advertising.
Yep.
So the other thing, just I can quickly add here is that we think about is that online conversion is going to be like 2%, 3%, right? But a healthy business is when you have a 30% conversion, right? So you convert 2 or 3% of your customers online and the remaining 25, 27% is going to get converted offline, right? So that's the way to look at it that, and there's no like, it is going to be omni-channel, right? I mean, a consumer can see you online on Blinkit, then eventually buy offline. Our channel of marketing remains online only. We have not done TV, we have not done OTT, and we don't intend to do it, right? Because we're interacting and then people will find their places to sort of buy.
And why international so early in your life?
Again, I think that sort of goes back to the ambition that from day one we wanted it to be a global brand. And many times from a VC standpoint and investment standpoint, people get asked, is the market in India tapped? And is that the reason why you're sort of going international? And we believe that any new market that you enter, you pretty much start from ground zero, right? So it's not like that Mokobara has become the talk of the town in India, right? And suddenly I go to international market and everyone will start sort of buying Moko, right? It's not going to happen. So you sort of still have to build a foundation and that still takes 3 to 4 years, right? So what we are doing is we have picked one country that we felt is a global city at the moment, right? Which is Dubai. We started off there, right? We're going to take the next 1.5 years to sort of establish ourselves. once we build a playbook is when we start going international with other countries. So, and again, like we're doing it after 4 years. So,
Fair. I'm going to go through a bunch of these questions in a bit of a rapid fire kind of a way. But before I start the questions, something like COVID would have tested your grit. What's your sort of go-to to handle, those kind of big ups or downs generally in terms of professional? I'm sure there are a bunch of other failures too.
I think what Sangeet said in the beginning, right, that you really need to feel for the idea. If that's not the case in the beginning, events like COVID will obviously would have taken it from us. We're like, okay, fine, we have some money in our bank from our first fundraise. Let's pivot and do something, which we discussed intensively, right? But we kept coming back to the idea, but because we were doing this for 18 months, we were in love with this entire category, right? So like, we will wait this out. Uh, but but if we would have started looking at, okay, what's the gap? Where is the market? Then we would not have been married to the idea so much, and we would have left it, and we would have maybe selling deodorant or something like that.
Fair. Okay, I'm going to just go through these questions. What's your view of smart luggage going ahead in India, or just you have like, where do you think this category will innovate next or go next?
you don't need innovation in this category, right? I think you just need elevation. That is what we're doing at Moko, right? Any of this concept of smart luggage, right? I mean, nobody wants a smart luggage, right? Airlines are gonna put like crazy amount of restrictions, right? And there's nothing smart. Like, I mean, what do you need? Like, do you need like really a fingerprint to sort of open your luggage? Doesn't make sense, right? So I think until and unless it solves for a consumer pain point, I don't see. Maybe 3 years down the line, I might say a different thing. But sitting today, I don't see a need for a smart luggage, so as to speak.
Fair.
So in a 7 kg hand carry, right? If you put a 2 kg battery and a big machine, there's nothing left to keep. So you're basically buying a scooter. So it doesn't work.
That's well put. How did you, in your early days, what is product market fit? And the thing that people don't realize is every scale you miss product market fit, you'll have to revalidate. But what was in the early days? What did
I
you
think
consider product market fit?
very clear. We sold our luggage for first 2 months. Third month, we're on track to sell 300 units. COVID happened. The next 3 months, nothing is happening in the country. We're building a travel brand when nobody in the world is traveling, right? Cut to, I think, June, July, the first like May 26th is when the market, like the country opened up for a bit and a little bit of travel happened. June, we listed ourselves on Cred and Amazon, and people started buying that one piece of luggage, right? And we again sold like some 150 units of luggage, right? So when nobody in the world is traveling, no travel is happening. Mokobara is an unknown entity. Nobody knows anything about it, and we just have one product, and that too a cabin luggage. Like if you look at cabin luggage, the market between cabin, medium, large is less than 25-30%, right? Majority of the sales happens for medium and large. When that happened, that's when we knew that product market fit is there. And anytime a country would open up, we would launch a new category or a new size, our numbers would skyrocket. So we knew that there is some magic that is happening. And with every stage, I think you have to figure out your product market fit. You go from 1 crore to 10 crore, you have to unlock. If you see our journey, we start off with 10,000 rupee price point luggage, then we went down to 7,000, now we have a 5,000 rupee luggage, right? If you would have not done a 5,000, obviously you would have not scaled the way we have scaled. So
when you look at pricing like that, do you price assuming, it's sort of a catch-22, right? Because let's say you manufacture 300, I'm sure the price will reduce. When you do a batch of 30, I'm sure the price is higher. So do you assume that, how do you price something like that? Leave aside the discounting that you'll have to do on top.
I think I'm very, very clear. I have never seen economies of scale in reality. I think that's a very bookish thing that a lot of people say. Maybe it happens when you go from 1 million to like 1 billion. I think that's where probably happens, right? But we are talking about selling like 100 million pieces and not going beyond that, right? So I think economies of scale and sort of thinking that, oh, if I start scaling, then I'll be able to reduce the price. I don't think so that happens. But you, again, category to category, you look at, there's a lot of data for the category that you're operating in. what are the public listed companies, right? We looked at VIP, we looked at Samsonite, they're operating at 48-45% gross margin, Samsonite 52. Then you looked at some of the luxury handbag brands, then you know what the gross margin profile is. Beauty, you know what the gross margin profiles are, right? So I think you go little work backwards and say that if they've been able to build a business in 55% gross margin, then you also have to build a 55% gross margin business, right? You can't build it at like 40% gross margin business, right? Because over a period of time, your playbook is, so the way at least we talk about it is, I think a lot of great businesses have been built in this category. So there are playbooks which are readily available, right? They're not great products and great brands. So what we did is we created a great product and a great brand, but we are stealing the playbook from, like, say, Samsung has 100 stores, I'll also do 100 stores. They have a 60% gross margin, I will also try and build a 60% gross margin business, right? So I think you sort of work backwards, and over a period of time, you get better. That earlier, if you wanted to do a 5,000 rupee product and provide the same level of quality, I don't think so we would have been able to do it, right? But we started with 10,000 rupee product. We put in all the ghee that was there in the market to put into this product. Then we were able to come down, identify more suppliers who has some cost advantages for XYZ reasons, figure out what are the features that need not be there in this product, right? Say, for example, for us, a 5,000 rupee luggage, 7,000 rupee luggage, 10,000 rupee luggage, Hinomoto wheels are the common constant, right? Because that's one thing that consumers appreciate the most. But you don't find a laundry bag in the 5,000. You don't find the USB charging. So you sort of figure it out and build from there, I guess.
I think the margin profile thing was a very interesting point to just sort of have a baseline. What's, maybe it's maybe the answer is different at different revenue scales. What's a good percentage mix of online through your own website in terms of revenues versus selling through marketplaces versus, let's say, selling offline? Just three simple things. And is there, for any new brands, of course, it's a category-based question, are there any other newer forms of distribution that people should explore nowadays outside of quick commerce, of course?
I think it doesn't matter, right? If you're 90% on Amazon, that's also great. If you're able to build a business, it's great. If you're 90% offline, that's also great. I think, in my view, it doesn't matter. I think over a period of time, it helps if you have multiple channels to have some negotiation power, right? Say, for example, we have a healthy mix of 50 to 60% coming from our own website, then 20% from retail, another 30% from marketplaces, right? So we are able to sort of balance it out. And for some reason or the other, a particular channel, like if you're not present on Amazon, then we miss out on the whole festival season. That's where you get the maximum spike. So I think it's good if you're able to operate between channels, but there is no, I don't know.
Yeah. So true, but if you want to feel proud and happy and sleep well, own as much as you can. Keep your destiny in your control. So we have a very, very healthy D2C channel, which is our own website. So no one can arm twist us. A marketplace cannot come tomorrow and arm twist us for any sort of thing, because a large part of our business is on our own website. So that actually makes us feel really confident.
That's fair. In terms of, let me just go to consumer insighting. Like, do you folks, before a new product or a new category even, do you do something very specifically around consumer inciting?
I mean, we don't speak to consumers, right? Couple of times we have done that. We failed.
So after selling, yes, we speak extensively, but at the design process, we stay away from that.
You're the Steve Jobs really of travel.
So I think it's very, very simple. I think we've couple of times in the last 4 years of journey, we've tried to look at what the competition is doing, like the bigger players. Then we have listened to the consumers, what they're saying. And we've done some products, but it did not fit the bill from a Mokobara vibe standpoint. And the consumers also came back and they said, "Yeah, ye to main nahi kharidunga aapse," right? So I think what we have done is that don't speak to the consumers while designing something, right? Speak to the consumers and do extensive feedback after they've bought it, right? What are the reasons why they're buying it? Or listen to the consumers when they're coming back and saying, "I would love to have a diaper bag from Mokobara," right? I need more options in briefcases, right? Can you do a soft luggage, right? So we said we're not going to do a soft luggage because design-wise, we're not yet able to crack the design the way it should be. So we said, what is the need for a soft luggage? It needs to open from top. Okay, so let me try and create, and that becomes the innovation, right? That becomes the smart luggage in some way or the other. Then I'm able to open a hard luggage from the top, which serves the same use case, right? So I think pick the fringes of what the consumers are saying, not the exact idea, and sort of, yeah.
Fair. I'm gonna, I think we are just about time. I know you guys are busy, so I'm gonna keep it to the last 5 minutes and do a bit of rapid fire. What, if you were not in travel, what is another category that you're most excited about?
Shoes.
Ah, interesting.
Shoes.
You don't think there is good enough products in shoes?
I no, we really want to do shoes, and that's very
So I
exciting.
think it's again coming from love, right? Shoes, denim.
Denim, yes.
I think denim is where I know for a fact that you can create a large brand. Levi's is too boring right now. There's nothing cool. And most of the other brands who do other stuff, they sell denim as well. So I think denim is a great opportunity. Shoes is something that we love. That's why shoes.
Interesting. Last 3, 4 questions. Let me handpick. What's the most wackiest or most different thing on the marketing side that you guys have done?
Sorry?
The wackiest or the most different thing that you guys have done, the most creative thing. I mean, the brand itself is super creative, but if you were to really put an even higher bar on what's the
So wackiest was actually when during our early days only because of COVID, we our production for a medium size got like delayed, and we wanted to do a photo shoot and everything. We couldn't do it, so we actually drew a sketch of a medium size luggage and wrote it looks almost similar to your Cayman luggage, and we sent it to all the Cayman luggage customers. And the discussion was like if people can pay for a car and wait for a year to get, will they be willing to do the same for luggage, right? So we took a lot of money in advance, and that was the product market fit question, right? Like, but people were actually paying for the 2D diagram, and were willing to wait for 6 months to get their luggage. So that was, I think, one of the crazy things that we did.
I love how out of stock becomes a way to get money from customers ahead. Okay, there's a bunch of questions which I'm going to save. Do you believe that in the next 5, 7 years, if you are building a brand, is it more important to go after the younger ones, or is it more important, or you believe that there is enough space? Because one of the questions is, are Gen Zs or millennials the bigger audience, or is it who should someone go after more? Again, something that is closer to the particular founder, obviously, but is there a particular audience that you think is buying more of Mokobara?
If it's premium product, it's best to go with people above 28, 29 in India.
Actually, that's a fair way to put it. One last question for Mokobara. I think you sort of somewhere answered the question already on what's the product or the category that's different. But from a team perspective, I'm sure a bunch of people here might also be very interested in joining your team. And I can obviously see a variety of ex-Urban Ladder folks there. What is the one thing that you look for in your team, and sort of an advertisement for future talent?
Yeah, so for the culture part, we have a filter. Are you from Urban Ladder or not? So if they are from Urban Ladder, at least the culture we don't have to worry about. But jokes apart, I think we look for vibe match. We have to tolerate, and they have to tolerate us every day. So the vibe has to match. We should be able to party together. That's the most important thing. And work happens. I think in a great environment, work automatically happens.
Like, I mean, till date, we don't have a set interview process, right? Some of the hires have happened in like a half an hour conversation. Some of the hires have happened with two other folks just having random conversation with like, okay, we like you, you like us. So other thing that we've done is we've never gone for the past experience per se, right? We have looked for people who have crazy amount of ambition, and we are, and again, crazy learning from Urban Ladder, right? I mean, if you look at it, Urban Ladder sort of created us, and we are essentially saying that Mokobara will create the next set of founders from here, right? So don't look for people who have achieved glory in the past necessarily, right? Maybe as you scale, you might need it or you might not need it. look for people who has crazy amount of ambition and they're just excited to come and work with you.
Okay, on that note, guys, first of all, awesome having both of you. I think it's great to sit on the other side and listen to this story. Nandini, by the way, says hi. She was the first comment.
Hey.
And Isha also, I'm sure, would want to say hi. She's also in the audience.
I think
but...
that this we should do it outside this Zoom session.
I know, but I think given the last 1 minute, I take that liberty. But I think it's been awesome to see, obviously see the growth of the brand. Very coincidentally, I have, unfortunately, it's a fake thing. I think you can see which product I'm showing you here. It's a fake background, which is cutting the bag off. But I see, whenever I see the product on an airline, so many people, even internationally, when I'm traveling, I'm like, that's Mokobara. And I think to create something so distinctive, both as a brand as well, I think as the team that you guys have put together and the brand associations, it's fantastic to see all of this from the sidelines. Best of luck in what you guys are doing. And obviously, we'll catch up outside of all of this, not over 6 bottles of wine. But I think for founders who are really looking to build, a D2C brand, D2C is the wrong word, I know, a consumer brand. I think there's just so much to learn here in terms of consistency of brand building, the passion that you need to have for a product or the category to go through a period like COVID, as well as just, the ethos of what you're building. If you're clear about that, I'm sure you'll build 100 crore, 200 crore, 500 crore brand. And it's great to learn from these guys. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm sorry if I couldn't answer a lot of the questions through these guys, but thanks, guys. And
Thank you so much. It was super, super fun.
Thank you.
Good to hear that.
Bye.